today's proceedings. Welcome to day 3 of session 2, which is day 23 overall of this inquiry process. Could I remind you to switch off your telephones, make sure they don't disturb us. Is there any updates on any documents that might be being prepared or information that might be being prepared for us? Mr. Thompson.
Yes, good morning, sir. A joint statement relating to the has been agreed between the appellants and the council. It's just been distributed among the parties this morning, but perhaps I should give them a short period to consider it before formally seeking to lodge it. But as an update, it exists.
And is likely to be lodged today.
Indeed.
Thank you.
So just to add to that good news, I understand that we now have a statement from Mr Gibb, albeit he's on holiday. We have it in electronic form, and we're going to have copies made, and I would hope to have them during the course of the morning. They'll have to be printed somewhere else and brought along, but I believe it's in a form now suitable to lodge with the inquiry, which I would hope to do today before we adjourn, failing which we'll do it on Tuesday.
Okay, thank you. Is that likely to require us to do anything else, or is it just going to be some information?
I can't imagine it would require us to do anything else, but of course Mr Innes may, as always, have different ideas, sir.
Thank you. Any other procedural matters to raise? Anybody? Okay, well then it is to you, Mr Innes, to present our HSPT case on this topic.
Yes, thank you, sir. The Trust has one witness, Dr Gavin Conlon. Good morning, Dr Conlon. Could I ask you, you have your precognition before you and we're going to read certain passages of it. Could I ask you, first of all, just to read paragraphs 1.1 and 1.4 of your precognition, please?
Okay, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Gavin Conlon. I'm a partner at London Economics, and I've worked for the firm for over 12 years. In terms of professional qualifications, I attained a first-class honours degree in economics and mathematics, a master's degree in economics from University College Dublin, as well as a doctorate in economics from the University of Oxford. London Economics has worked with almost every UK central government department. Our client base includes Skills Development Scotland, the UK Department for Education, the UK Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, the UK Department for International Trade, the UK Department for Health, the UK Space Agency, European Space Agency, and the European Commission and European Parliament.
Thank you. If you now move forward, I think we can probably take as read the matters such as context. And if I move forward to section 3 of your precognition, please.
Thank you. So as outlined in my topic paper, the original 2007 study undertaken by Oxford Economics did not properly account for displacement, and therefore the economic impact was overstated. Furthermore, in respect of that report, I also highlighted concerns regarding the application of discount rates. Essentially, the analysis undertaken was not Green Book compliant. In addition to those points, other matters for concern included the assumed inflation rate during the construction phase, approximately 10 to 11%, the assessment of the location construction industry and the contribution of the project to Edinburgh's construction industry, multiple reporting inconsistencies and inaccuracies, a number of inconsistencies in the multipliers adopted to calculate spillovers, on several occasions the use of outdated information despite more recent information being available, the use of unverified data provided by third parties, inconsistent time period used for the analysis, inconsistent definition of job supported, whether full-time equivalent or headcount, no attempt to assess the value of preserving Edinburgh's cultural heritage, no presentation of economic multipliers, and a general lack of transparency, no attempt to consider or control for optimism bias.
And if you just read on in relation to the 2018 report, I've got a question at 4.6.
So having reviewed further the Oxford Economics report, I've highlighted there continue to be some concerns regarding the lack of transparency as identified. The revised report does, however, start to engage with the concept of optimism bias and displacement effects. In my topic paper, I've considered the manner in which Oxford Economics have taken into account displacement. In terms of the issues raised, the first issue is the prediction that a new development would only have an impact in 2022. By Andrew Logan in paragraph 18 of APP 47, and with no displacement effect beyond 2022. I believe this to be inaccurate. A Green Book compliant analysis would provide a sensitivity analysis demonstrating the impact of alternative displacement assumptions on net economic impact. The adoption of a conservative assumption relating to the persistence of the displacement effect would have a significant impact on the analysis. I'll skip forward to section 4.6, or will I keep going?
Yeah, we'll just go to 4.6. Right.
Okay. I believe that section 4.4. Also in my topic paper, I've reviewed the information produced by HVS, both in terms of their 2015 and 2018.
An emergency situation has arisen within the stadium. Please leave the stadium in an orderly manner by the nearest available exit. An emergency situation has arisen.
Somewhere on 4.4. Well, I think if we could start, I think you were reading at 4. Yes, you'd started just at 4.4. Okay. If you could just start there again, and I'll stop you at the end of 4.6.
Okay. Also in my topic paper, I've reviewed the information produced by HVS, both in the 2015 and 2018 studies. On the information provided, it was seen that the average room rate of £135 per night is likely to be a material underestimation of the value of rooms displaced. In terms of a Green Book compliant analysis, this would provide a classic example of where a sensitivity analysis should be undertaken. Combining the issues relating to the persistence of the displacement effect, but also introducing a more realistic room rate for the luxury hotel market to better identify the lost revenues incurred by competitor hotels, would significantly reduce the estimated net economic impact of the proposals. I believe that the proposed adjustments for direct displacement are insufficient. Assuming average room rates of €243 or equivalent of £217, in line with the stated assumptions in the original HVS analysis, the Oxford Economics analysis potentially overstates the total economic impact of the 127-room development by at least £9.7 million, and in the case of the 147-room development by at least £11.2 million in present value terms.
Now, if I could just stop you there, and could you have your topic paper, which is RHSPT 13, available, please?
Sure.
And if we go to page 4 of that document, we see a bullet point with essentially, above the word essentially, is a bullet point to incorporate the wider displacement effects. Below we have an indication of these effects. Do we see that?
Yep.
Now, as I understand it, this is your attempt to deal with the situation that the only displacement in relation to the analysis had been on the accommodation cost alone. Is that correct?
This is correct, yes.
Yeah. And insofar as you noting that, you undertook your own research and gave a suggested figure of an uplift that would need to be applied to account for that. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And what was that figure?
So the uplift is approximately 38% uplift.
Yeah. In terms of the position before the query, APP48, which is Mr. Kett's inquiry report on page 19, incorporates table 5.1, which is a forecast income and expense of various scenarios relating to the hotels. Do you have a copy of that?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, insofar as we're dealing with the 127 room hotel, that's the middle scenario, and do we see there that in that particular context, the non-food element of the expenditure exceeds 40%? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And in the 147 scenario, it's almost bang on 40%.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. And insofar as the release of this information is concerned, does it reinforce your view that it is appropriate to make an allowance for this particular potential transfer of expenditure?
Absolutely. So the whole concept of displacement is trying to understand how much business will be taken away from other organisations. And it's acceptable to look at just the accommodation revenues that might be displaced. But clearly it's the case from basic evidence or information gathering, it's possible to identify that hotels or a new hotel will also attempt to generate revenues through food, beverages and other activities. And simple evidence scouting suggests that that's about 40%. About 40% of their revenues, their total revenues, will be associated with food and beverages. So this would suggest that if it's not included, we don't include food and beverages, then the displacement effect is understated.
Okay.
And that means that the total net economic impact is overstated.
Thank you. Now, all I want you to do next is not to do any new calculations, but effectively we've got, you've used a figure of overstatement over periods, and I just want to try and relate it to a single year so that it's comparable. So if you could perhaps have CD 597,
Sure.
version 2, and if we go to page 7 of that document,
Yep.
we get figure 3, which is effectively the analysis of the 127 hotel, and we're given various panels. And panel F is the panel which is negative in value and is essentially the volume of GVA displaced in relation to hotel expenditure only. Is that correct?
Yes, that's my understanding, yes.
Yeah.
Sir, can I just indicate if there are new calculations coming out here that are not contained within the precognition, that would be unfair and prejudicial, in addition to which my relevant witness is not in the room because we had not anticipated that happening. So I would submit, sir, if that's what's about to happen, I object to it.
Is that what's about to happen?
I'll tell you what I'm doing is to make sure there's a comparison. I'm not asking Mr. My own witness, Dr. Conlon, to change any of his evidence or to do any new calculations. All I want to put to him is if I apply my 217 and his 60 and his 38%, which he's calculated in a slightly different way, to that figure, what it would be. I mean, that's all I'm asking. There's no new additional calculations over and above that.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if we've got the figure of 3.9 at the moment, that's based on the 135 average rate times the displacement, which I think in the previous page arises from 29,150 room nights. What would be the effect on the figure of 3.9 if you just apply both your 217 figure as set out in your figure and your 38% uplift for food? What would be the resulting figure at the...
So instead of 3.9 million, the displacement effect would be closer to 8.7 million in 2022. The important point to note, though, I'd also sort of go on, it's 8.7 million pounds in 2022, but in figure 3 of the Oxford Economics CD 597, the 3.9 million figure only relates to 2022. As an economist applying Green Book principles, you would expect this displacement effect to carry on not just in 2022, but in 2023, 24, 25, 26, over the entire period of the analysis. So the 8.7 million pounds displacement that I refer to would take place in all of those years, realistically.
And just in terms of this particular methodology, in terms of there's a direct relationship between the accommodation costs and the tourist displacement, and that's how that's been worked out in this table. So that would also alter the tourist figure as well, wouldn't it, if you were doing that calculation?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
If you take these figures if you accept these figures as 1.7 million pound displacement in tourism, if we apply the same multiple, we would get a number closer to 3.75 million. So if you add the 8.7 million and 3.75 million, you come to a number of about 12 million a year, each year for 5 years.
And as I understand it, Dr. Conlon, your position would have been you'd have preferred to see a series of analysis of this, not just a single figure. Is that correct?
Well, I think that's right. I think undertaking any economic impact analysis, whether it be the hotel sector or, a computer chip company, whatever it might be, it's very important to follow the rule book. The Green Book is a rule book for public and private sectors, best practice for undertaking economic impact analysis. And apart from making sure that you use the most up-to-date and transparent and auditable evidence, it also suggests that there are other components of analysis that are very important. And one of these things is, because evidence is always going to have some degree of uncertainty, it's very important to account for ranges of estimates. So it's very important to undertake a sensitivity analysis and to show how your results are generated. And one of the issues that I have in relation to this paper is that there's a spurious level of certainty associated with the estimates, and there's no underpinning workings, so it's impossible to actually accurately identify or replicate the analysis. And that's sort of very troubling as an economist.
Let's look at some of the troubling aspects, and you can read on in your precondition to optimism bias, please.
So, section 4.7, optimism bias. Although the revised Oxford Economics Report CD 597 considers optimism bias, the choice of 20% to reflect this optimism bias is highly selective. In particular, the guidance that the authors themselves refer to suggests that for non-infrastructure projects, there should be a reduction of between 20 and 40%, and potentially up to 75% for optimism bias. For infrastructure projects, the reference material states that the project appraisers should consider applying higher levels of optimism bias, over 50% and possibly up to 90% in some cases. Standard economic impact analyses should provide a range of estimates by undertaking sensitivity analysis to illustrate the extent to which the calculations are affected by the underpinning assumptions. Assuming a higher degree of optimism bias, as per the stated guidance, would result in significantly reduced estimates of the economic impact of the proposed development. I believe that optimism bias has not been accounted for appropriately, and the estimates of net economic impact are significantly greater than might actually be the case. In paragraph 57 of CD 597, Andrew Logan states that the proposed development is of regional and national importance. From an economic perspective, this is unlikely to be the case. The current Oxford Economics highest estimate of the contribution of the developments to jobs stands at 710, which represents just 0.026% of the 2.646 million individuals in employment in Scotland. In paragraph 6.11 of APP48, reference is made to an article, "If you build it, they will come. Convention Centre and expanded hotel capacity induce positive changes to the downtown Nashville hotel market." I think it is important to point out that the analysis undertaken has not been peer-reviewed and appears to be an internal analysis undertaken by a real estate and services firm. In addition, there is no information provided in respect to the analysis undertaken, and the results could not be meaningfully replicated. More generally, there is a question about whether the analysis relating to Nashville is in any way comparable to the proposed development in Edinburgh. In particular, the overall development involved the opening of the Music City Centre with approximately 1 million square feet of exhibition space, followed by an 800-room Nashville hotel with a further 80,000 square feet of conference space, 21 meeting rooms and 2 ballrooms. I would suggest that it is the collection of these assets that created any potential uplift and not specifically the hotel alone. Therefore, I would disagree with the assertion that the development of a new hotel would necessarily induce demand. If the best evidence relates to a large multi-use development, I would not base an assertion about supply generating its own demand on a particular component of a large development, i.e. the hotel.
And I've just got one further matter, Dr. Conlon. Could you have your report CD 580, please?
Yep.
And if you go to page 7 of the document in the first instance, the context is that you're doing some context setting for motivators for visiting Scotland, and you also then go on at the bottom of the page to look at some analysis that's been undertaken about people's preferences as to why they've come to Edinburgh and Scotland. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
And then over the page, there's a table, and then on page 9, you reach or suggest a certain conclusions from the information that you reviewed.
Yes.
And from that, two lines from the top, you state the following. The existing evidence, which is broadly consistent across research undertaken on different geographic scales, indicates that only between 4% and 17% of travellers are prompted to visit a destination to stay in a specific hotel or other accommodation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Now, this is a calculation that has been put to the previous Mr. Logan. Can I ask you to, first of all, have document CD598, please, which
Yes.
and if I go to section 6, Exhibit J, do we see there that effectively Mr. Kett anticipated that the cannibalisation arising from the 127 hotel would be 29,152? Do you see that?
That's correct.
Yeah. And in relation to, if we then go to APP-48 again, which is Mr. Kett's inquiry report. Page 19, and again, table 5.1. And do we see under the 127-bedroom scenario that the forecast occupancy is 34,002?
That's correct.
Yeah. If we compare the figures of cannibalisation against that occupancy, it would seem to suggest that approximately 14% of the hotel guests would have effectively been attracted anew as opposed to coming from other hotels. Is that right?
That's absolutely correct.
Is that consistent or not consistent with the work that you have previously undertaken in looking at this situation?
So that's absolutely consistent with the wider evidence. So it suggests that 86% of the room take-up is displacement effect or cannibalisation from other hotels, and 14% is new.
And what does that, in terms of your perception, or not perception, your professional view in terms of the net economic impact, what does that put in your mind, Dr. Conlon?
So undertaking an analysis of this, what we would find is that even though those 14% of, let's call them new guests, might pay a price premium to stay in the proposed hotel, essentially what this means is that the net economic impact is significantly overstated. So in our calculations, we found that the net economic impact would decline by 40–50%.
Thank you, sir. That concludes examination in chief.
Thank you, Mr. Innes. Mr. Steele.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Conlon, good morning. Just on that last point, as I understand it, you're attaching weight to the fact that guests will move from one hotel to our hotel. Is that correct?
Your proposed hotel, yes.
Yeah. And what allowance have you made for the fact that those empty rooms in the original hotel will fill up?
In an economic analysis, we compare like with like. So that's a different scenario.
Is it one that you've considered, Dr. Conlon? Are you aware of the occupancy rates of hotels in Edinburgh?
Yes.
Right. Have you considered the fact that those empty rooms in whatever hotels you have in mind will actually fill up if they become vacant?
That's an assumption on your part. So if
well, let's just make that assumption, Dr. Conlon. Given the occupancy rates of hotel in Edinburgh, it's a reasonable assumption to make.
So the occupancy rate of hotels in Edinburgh is less than 100%. So therefore, if a new hotel displaces these existing guests from other hotels, because the occupancy rate isn't at 100%, then we would expect them not to be replaced.
What is the occupancy rate?
It's, according to the various documentation I've seen, it's between 70 and 75%. So
Is it not actually over 80%?
Pardon?
Is it not actually over 80%?
Can you refer to the document where it says
No,
that?
I can do, but let's just save time. Even if it's 75%,
Yeah.
that means that 75% of these rooms will fill up again, doesn't it?
No,
Right.
it doesn't. It
Well, we'll
means
return
that-
to the detail of
No,
that
sorry.
later,
Can I answer that?
of course.
It does mean, because the occupancy rate is less than 100%, it means that if those guests move from existing hotels to the new proposed hotel, it exactly means the opposite. It means that they will not be replaced.
Dr. Conlon, that surely is not right. What it means against the demand for hotel rooms in Edinburgh, that most of those hotel rooms that have been vacated will indeed be reoccupied, does it not?
No, that's not correct.
Right.
If occupancy rates were 100%, so essentially there's excess demand, if there was a new hotel and some of the existing guests moved to that new hotel, then there would be replacement and the occupancy rate would remain at 100%. But given the fact that the occupancy rate is less than 100%, those rooms would now be vacant.
So you've approached this matter on the basis that those rooms will simply remain vacant.
I've approached this on the basis of the evidence.
Well, just so I can understand it, Dr. Conlon, on the basis that those rooms will remain vacant. Is that the position?
It's based on the evidence, yes, that's the case,
Well, is the answer yes?
based on the evidence.
Well, never mind the evidence, just so I can understand it. Is the position that you've assumed that those rooms will remain vacant?
Yes, based on the
Thank you.
evidence.
Right. Can we go, please, to the beginning? As I understand it, Dr. Conlon, your expertise relates to educational issues. Is that so?
I'm an education and labour markets economist, working across the public and private sector,
But in relation to educational issues?
amongst many. Also trade issues, product innovation, new technology, many issues.
And on how many previous occasions have you carried out an economic impact assessment in relation to an hotel or hotels?
In relation to hotel industry, none.
None. And in the education industry that you are experienced in, does displacement have much of a part to play?
Yes, it can do.
And does optimism bias have much of a part to play?
Not especially in the case of economic impact analysis of, for instance, higher education institutions.
Now, how familiar are you with the Rosewood hotels?
Not especially familiar.
Do you know the nature of that hotel and the type of guests that it attracts?
Broadly, yes.
What is that then?
I think it would be reasonable to say that they are high net worth individuals.
And what do you know about the loyalty of the guests?
I would assume that they are potentially marginally more loyal than a typical visitor.
And is this something that you have mentioned in your paper's topic or precognition or reflected in them?
No.
Have you, Dr. Conlon, been here and or listened to all of our economic evidence?
I've listened to some of it, yes.
Well, have you listened to all of it was the question, Dr. Conlon.
No, I haven't listened to all of it. I've read
Thank you.
and commented on the evidence.
And as a matter of interest, have you actually even visited the Royal High School site?
Yes.
And have you been inside the building?
No, I haven't.
Can we look, please, firstly, at document CD 419, and while that, don't move, Dr. Conlon, we'll bring that to you. And can you confirm whether you have or have not seen this document before?
No.
Thank you. Well, let me assist you by explaining what it is then. This document contains the professional opinion of the planners, including the economists from the City of Edinburgh Council. Do you accept that?
I accept that.
Thank you. Could we turn, please, firstly to page 23 of 136? And for the purposes of saving time, if I may read to you the sentence which is 9 lines up from the bottom, Dr. Conlon. As a result, the development could make a very positive contribution to Edinburgh's economy and contribute significant benefits to the economic growth for the wider region and nation. Do you agree with that professional opinion of the Planning Department of the City of Edinburgh Council? And a yes or no for my purpose will suffice.
I don't think it's as straightforward as a yes or a no. I think that it's undoubtedly the case that a development would have a positive economic contribution. There are benefits associated with potentially, but there are also costs, and I would question the use of the words very. Or the use of the word very positive contribution, that is uncertain. So, at face value, I wouldn't say yes or no.
I see. You won't answer that question. Suppose we delete the word very from it. Do you accept the rest of the proposition that's put there, Dr. Conlon? Let's just delete the word very.
No. I would say, if I wrote this, I would say as a result, the development can make a positive contribution to Edinburgh's economy and contribute benefits to economic growth for the wider region and nation. So I take out the word significant as well.
So, subject to deletion of the words very and significant, you agree with that proposition? Being the professional opinion of the City of Edinburgh Council Planning Department.
I think it's a fair statement.
Thank you. And if we turn the page, please, to page 24, about halfway down, there's a heading criteria A, B and C. The following is further stated by the by the Planning Department of the Council. I'll just give you the whole sentence. The viability of the hotel proposals. Do you see that sentence, Dr. Conlon? About halfway down, there's a heading criteria A, B and C, line 2. Are you with me?
Yep.
The viability of the hotel proposals is dependent on the demolition of the classroom, gym block and gatehouse lodge, and it is accepted, and I'm not asking about demolition obviously, but it is accepted that the economic benefits to the city, region and nation are significant enough to justify this demolition. Do you agree that the economic benefits to the city, region and nation are significant in the way that is put by the Council's Planning Department officials?
I think that's impossible to answer. I think using the words enough, I would have to see, I don't see any evidence to suggest that the benefits are significant enough.
Well, let me delete.
They may be positive,
let me
but
make,
I can't say whether they're significant enough.
Well, let me make clear, I didn't use the word enough. Do you accept
Oh, it's written here.
I understand that, Dr. Conlon, but let me put this to you. Do you accept that the economic benefits to the city, region and nation are significant? Full stop.
No. I would say they are positive. We don't know whether they're significant.
So you simply disagree with the City of Edinburgh Council Planning Department, including their Economic Development Department. Is that your position?
No.
You either agree with what they say or you don't, Dr. Conlon. Which is it?
Well, I think using the word significant or significant enough is suggestive. And I think the economic benefits are positive, but significant has a very specific meaning. And I think that might be overstating.
Either that or you're understating it, Dr. Conlon, one or t'other.
No, I don't think I'm understating at all.
You couldn't be wrong, I take it, no?
I think in terms of all the analysis that I've done in relation to the evidence that's been placed in front of me, I've demonstrated that the estimates of gross economic impact are overstated, and I've illustrated why they're overstated. And in response to the material that I've presented, I see the impact analyses have been revised on several occasions to take into account my suggestions. So I don't think they're overstated. I think, if anything, you find that if you look at CD 204, the initial analysis by Oxford Economics suggested that the total economic impact was £201.6 million. Following my suggestions, this was revised down to £136 million. And even then, it's still too high. I still think it's less than half of that. So I think I'm not overstating. If anything, it's the Oxford Economics work that is overstated, and it's been revised down continually, but not enough.
Well, Dr. Conlon, I'm not interested in a debate about the detail at the moment. I'm just trying to take this high level, just so I can understand the position.
Okay.
And whether you're right or whether you're wrong about the precise figures we'll come to in a minute. I just want to know your position. Do you accept that the economic benefits to the city, region and nation are significant, whatever the figure may be?
Not necessarily.
Well, what is your position, Dr. Conlon?
I mean, there might be positive benefits to the city. To the region is questionable. To the nation, very questionable.
So you simply disagree with the planning department of the City of Edinburgh Council? Is that the position?
I think the sentence as it's written, and you have to read the full sentence, I think it's overstating the potential economic impact.
So in other words, we're overstating the position and the City of Edinburgh Council are also overstating the position, and Dr. Conlon's correct. Is that the position?
I think the statement is overstated.
Right. Now, Dr. Conlon, in relation to the Green Book, on which you place great reliance, is that something that you rely upon greatly in your usual course of work, namely in relation to educational issues?
We rely on the Green Book for any type of economic and social impact analysis, whether it be education or some other private sector organisation. So, for instance, we undertook a piece of work looking at the economic impact of Intel, the chip maker, a private sector organisation, but we would use Green Book principles for that as well.
Well, I hope we don't need to go to the Green Book, but may we agree that it's actually advice to the public sector bodies and departments and executive agencies? Is that correct?
It's guidance, yes.
And it is guidance to the public sector bodies and departments and executive agencies. Is that not correct?
Can I see the sentence you're referring to?
I thought you'd be familiar with it, but most certainly you can. If you need to, Doctor, it's within your own inquiry documents, and it's number 9, and it's page Roman 5. And taking the matter brief, do we see at paragraph 2 the statement this is guidance to public sector bodies, and in paragraph 3 the statement that the Green Book constitutes binding guidance for the departments and executive agencies. These are clearly of government.
Yes.
Thank you. Now, Doctor, I'm going to now turn to look at things in a little bit of detail, and would you please treat me gently, because although it's a long time ago, I seem to remember failing my maths O-level, so you maybe need to help me a little bit with this. I'd like to ask firstly about displacement. Just to understand, so I can understand the position. If we look, Dr. Conlon, at your topic paper, you suggest in one version that I have that in relation to the 127 room development, and I'm referring to page 4 of your topic paper, the displacement for the 127 hotel development is between 9.7 and 19.5 million. Do you see that?
Yep.
And if I turn to your precognition, what is stated to be your position? It's at least 9.7 million. Is that correct? Paragraph 4.6.
Yes.
And there's no mention of 4.6 of the figure of 19.5 million, is there?
No. In the precognition?
Yeah.
No. It's at least 11.2.
Yeah. Can we now turn to the 147 room development? And you really have to help me here, Doctor, because in your topic paper, I have before me a figure in one version of 22.1 million, or between 22.1 million and 44.3 million. Do you have that version? What figures do you have?
Which paragraph?
It's the line after the one we've just been looking at. 140 is in your topic paper, 147 room development between 22.1 million and 44.3 million.
No, I have 11.2 and 22.6.
Are you looking at your topic paper?
Yes.
Those are the figures we have also, Mr. Steele. It's titled Updated Topic Paper. RHSPT13.
Well, sir, I don't have that.
Oh, dear.
And I have the topic paper with the figures that I have referred to. And
So
that
11.2, and so in the case of the 147 room development, 11.2 million and 22.6 million pounds, which is the same as the precognition. So 11.2 in both documents and 9.7 in both documents, both referring to at least.
And indeed, I have lodged as document RSPT 13 a version that contains track changes, which has a figure. Which is a figure in respect of the 147 room development of between 11.2 million and 4,422.6 million. Can you help me to understand that, Dr. Conlon?
I think you're going to have to answer that question. I don't know that document you're referring to.
Would you like to see it?
No, I've got the topic paper and I've got the precognition in front of me.
Well,
What's the figures you've got in front of you, Dr. Conlon?
So in the precognition paper 4.6, I have the Oxford Economics analysis potentially overstates the total economic impact of the 127 room development by at least £9.7 million. In the case of 147 room development by at least £11.2 million in present value terms. Yeah. And the topic paper, I have the Oxford Economics analysis potentially overstates the total economic impact of the 127 room development by between 9.7 and 19.5 million pounds, depending on whether the impact of food and beverage expenditure is included. and in the case of 147 room development by between 11.2 million and 22.6 million pounds in present value terms.
So the 44 that was originally there should be deleted.
Do you, I'm unclear as to which figures you've got. Do you have the 20, in relation to the 147, do you have 22, between 22 and 44?
It's 11 and 22.
I'm asking.
Yes, what's on the document RHSPT 13 is 4422 point crossed out 36.
Yeah,
you said,
that's precisely what I've got, sir. It's 4,422.6 million is the figure.
But from what Dr. Collins just said, the 44 isn't in his version. So
That's correct.
Wow.
Is that an error?
It's not an. I mean, it's
Not a mathematical error, an error in how it's been produced.
Change. It's a track change. It's a revision issue. It's not an error.
And Dr. Conlon, in the version, in another version that I have.
So if it helps, the position is that the 44 is actually a score out. And what you
Should be.
It isn't in this one, but it should.
it's actually going through the 44s. It is.
It's not.
I think it is.
Yes, it's.
The underlying bit is the replacement.
I wonder if this could be taken in re-examination. I have a line of cross-examination, if I could. I know that there's
We'll resolve that
consternation in the
later,
ranks,
Mr.
but
I think it's
perhaps we
important.
could deal with it in re-examination.
As you were, Mr. Steele.
Thank you, sir. I'm obliged. Now, Dr. Conlon, I thought this was perhaps my lack of maths O-level that had caused me confusion here, you see. But is the truth of the matter that you originally drafted this at 22, between 22 and 44 million? That was your original opinion, wasn't it?
The 22 to 44 million might have been as a result of undertaking some additional sensitivity analyses. So, for instance, assuming a higher room rate or a different incidence of food and beverage. But the final conclusion of 11 to 22 million is essentially based on what I would think are very conservative assumptions. So a much lower room rate of £217, for instance, and a food and beverage instance of 38.1%. So what I've done is just taken the most conservative approach based on the evidence available.
Again, slowly, so I can understand it, Dr. Conlon. Originally, your figures were between 22 to 44. You then thought the better of it and halved them.
No, I think that's inaccurate. I think that's an inaccurate statement.
Well, the figure has gone from between 22 to 44, and it now becomes 11. Now, it may be my arithmetic, but that is about half, or indeed a quarter, of your previous range, is it
No,
not?
there's no previous range. I mean, the range is 11.2 million to 22.6 million.
Not in the version that I and the learned reporters have, Dr. Conlon.
The version that's been submitted is the topic paper, which says 11.2 million to 22.6 million. And that's the same as in the precognition report.
Well, at some stage you have written 22 to 44. Now, in relation to the 4,422.6 million, can we agree that that is an error, and what you intended to do was to cross out the 44 and substitute for it at 22?
I think that's a tracking change. It's not an error. It's a tracking change. I don't know which document you're referring to.
Well, I've offered to show it to you, Doctor, but you don't seem very keen to look at it for some
happy to
reason.
look at it.
You'd like to look at it. Right,
That's fine.
here you are.
Is that an official copy?
Just look at it, it's fine.
Just ignore my marginal notes. And it does say 4,400 and something, a figure I've actually now forgotten.
No, it doesn't. I mean, the 4.4 is crossed out, as you can see.
4,4 is not crossed out.
It is. It is crossed out.
Can I just quickly see that?
It's a tracking change. Strike through and tracking change.
That one there.
Yeah. It's struck through. Yeah, so there's a strike through on the 4.4.
So the reporter should note that your evidence is that there's a strike out of the 44 in this document that I've just shown you, should
Yes.
they? Yeah.
I think the reporters understand what's happened here. So.
Yes. So So what we should do, Dr. Conlon, then, is rely on the figures in your precognition, which are at 9.7 and 11.2.
At least 9.7 and at least 11.2.
I understand that, but so far as the figures are concerned, these are the figures. Is that right? Now, if the overstatement had been 44 million, what would be the consequent economic impact of our proposal if we had overstated it by 44?
I'm sorry, you'll have to repeat the question. It didn't make sense.
Apologies, Doctor. You say that in a version that I have that there was an overstatement of up to 44 million. If that were to be correct, what would be the conclusion in relation to the correct figure?
The original topic paper had those figures in it. That's correct, is it, Dr. Conlon?
The numbers I'm familiar with are, it's not 44 million, it's 22.
Can I just take you to the RHSPT1, which I think was your original topic paper. No, I can't find the right page.
Page 4.
So there's a corresponding paragraph in that. Page 4.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
does that
Okay.
clarify what we're talking
Yep.
about?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Much clearer. Okay. So the question: what would be the economic impact if we had assumed 44?
Yes.
It would be £22 million less than.
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sure the fault's mine, but if it was overstated by 44, what would be the consequent figure when you have subtracted 44? From what do you say it should be subtracted, and what is the arithmetic of that?
Okay. Okay, so pulling together the calculations from the Oxford Economics paper, which is CD 597, they estimate that the total economic impact, the net economic impact on Edinburgh over 8 years with 147 rooms is 18.3 million per annum, multiplied by 8, which is 146.4 million. And if you assume there's 44 million pounds of displacement, that would reduce 146.4 down to approximately 102 million pounds.
So even if that were correct, that is a very significant economic advantage, isn't it?
But that figure is still not correct, because it still assumes that there's only 20% of optimism bias,
Yeah,
whereas
I'll
government
get
guidance suggests that it should be 20 to 40% or 50%.
Dr. Conlon, have no fear, we're coming to that. But if that were to be the figure, let's just round it to 100 million, that is still a very significant figure, isn't it?
It's a positive economic benefit, yes.
And further, you have modified or bluntly changed your position to 11.2 million in your recognition, haven't you?
11.2 million, yes.
Does it follow, as a matter of arithmetic, that the 100 million you've just told us about will go up significantly to 120 or 130 million? As a matter of arithmetic, or is it even more?
It would be 100, in the region of 100 to 120 million pounds.
That's even more significant, isn't it? Sorry, that's even more significant, isn't it?
That's more positive.
Okay, can we agree it's more significant?
It's positive, yes.
Thank you. Now, so far as displacement is concerned, I think you've already accepted that you have limited, I can't remember your precise words, and you'll correct me if I get it wrong, Dr. Conlon, but I think you've already accepted that you made no allowance for the fact that this was a Rosewoods hotel of which you had limited knowledge. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And can we agree that so far as displacement is concerned, one of the important considerations is that the more distinct the product and services, the lower the displacement is likely to be?
Not necessarily.
I see. Do you know whether that is or is not Scottish Enterprise guidance in relation to displacement?
They do provide some suggestions about displacement, but let's... the issue is that there is going to be some degree of overlap. It's not an entirely unique development, and therefore there is some competition within the Edinburgh market for ultra-luxury accommodation.
Oh, good. Would you tell me what the competition is? What are the other hotels in the, as you put it, ultra-luxury market, and what's your experience for so stating, Dr. Conlon?
Well, certainly I don't have the money or resources to stay in a luxury hotel, so I have no direct experience, but I would imagine something like the Balmoral Hotel would be considered to be a luxury hotel.
Well, have you listened and considered all our detailed evidence about all of this, that this would be unique in Edinburgh and Scotland?
Unique in Scotland? That's a far reach. No, I haven't listened to that evidence.
No. Right, so can I take you back to the original question?
Yep.
Do you accept that the more distinct the product, the lower will be the displacement that is likely?
Okay, I'll accept that broadly.
Yes, and you knew that perfectly well in the first place, didn't you?
That's not true.
Pardon?
That's not the case. I had to think about it.
And if the Rosewood brand is of the type that we had described in evidence, which I suspect you haven't listened to, then that would point towards lower displacement, would it not?
Sir, could I just intervene? My microphone has started to, and I don't know if it's Mr. Steele's, but I'm getting a hashy feedback, which is actually I can't hear a thing that's going on.
That, sir, is a very significant disadvantage to some, certainly to Mr. Innes.
Well, I am hard of hearing, so it does make things difficult if there is a problem.
No, I would very much welcome Mr. Innes being able to hear this. Doesn't seem to be Mr. Innes's day.
Do you want to repeat the question?
Well, not until Mr. Innes has got his microphone.
Is that working better yet, Mr. Innes? Can you hear what I'm saying?
It's not clicking, but I'll see how I go.
Okay, let's just do.
Thank you, sir. If Mr. Innes has any difficulty, no doubt he'll intervene. Now, Dr. Conlon, I've quite forgotten where I was, but I think we'd agreed that the more distinct the product, the less displacement was likely. I think we'd agreed about that.
It would be at the lower end of the range, yes.
Yeah. And if the Rosewood brand is in the way that we have described it, which is unique in Edinburgh, then that would likely point to lower displacement. Would that be fair? And I don't think you've heard the evidence, so I put it to you on a hypothetical basis.
It will be at the lower end of the range of potential displacement.
Now, do you know, I may have asked you this already, but I'll repeat it if I have. Do you know the loyalty of the Rosewood customers and whether they come from the Far East and the like? Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And if that is the case, would that also point to a lower level of displacement?
That will be incorporated in the lower displacement, yes.
And if the Edinburgh hotel market is expanding and the demand is high, that would also lower the displacement issue, wouldn't it?
Accounting for the occupancy rates being less than 100%, yes.
So all of these factors, if correct, of course, point to a lower displacement level rather than a higher one. Would that be fair?
That would be fair.
Thank you. Can I then look at optimism bias? Now, in your topic paper, which I have in front of me, and you'll correct me if the figures have been altered from this, but you seem to suggest that the advice relates to an optimism bias figure of up to 75%. Do I see that at line 4 under the heading optimism bias?
On the last page.
So the guidance says that optimism bias should be chosen between 20 and 40% and potentially up to 75%.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I just wonder, Dr. Conlon, can you help us? What relevance does 75% have? Because does that not apply to offshore projects?
It might well do. The point is that I think selecting in the same way that it will be, I would say, unreasonable to select an optimism bias of 75%, it's also reasonable to select an optimism bias of 20%. I think as an economist, you should choose some reasonable central estimates.
Well, we're getting to that in a moment. But firstly, Doctor, do we agree that 75%, which you've included here, actually refers to offshore projects and has no relevance at all to today's proceedings?
I'm just stating what the guidance indicates.
And do we agree it relates to offshore projects and has no relevance? So would you be happy if we simply deleted that? Because it may be thought that by reading this that it's a suggestion that it's relevant, when it in fact is not, is it?
It wouldn't be relevant for a hotel development, I would say.
Thank you. And you then go on in the next sentence to refer to other figures, but they relate to infrastructure projects which have got no relevance for today either, have they?
Absolutely, but I
Right.
state they are for infrastructure.
So, in order to focus our minds, would it be appropriate to delete that as well, so that we can then focus on what might actually be relevant to today's proceedings? Would that be fair?
If that's fair. So the 20 to 40%. That's fair.
Yes. So that leaves us with a range of between 20 and 40%. Is that correct?
Yep.
And Mr. Logan selected a figure within that range. Is that correct?
I believe you selected 20%.
Yes, that's within the range, is it not?
That's correct,
Yeah.
at the bottom end.
And that was done for reasons which he explained and was based on the evidence and professional judgments of other people in the team. Is that also so, Dr. Conlon?
I'll accept that. I would like to see the evidence upon which that decision was made.
Now, do you have any precise evidence or calculation on which to base any figure other than 20%? And if so, what is it, and where do we see it?
We haven't included any estimate to account for optimism bias.
Sorry, could
So
you repeat that again?
We've said that it has to be taken into account, but we haven't reduced our estimate of the net economic impact to account for optimism bias.
And nor, as I understand it, do you suggest any other figure or any evidence on which to base any other figure, do you?
I think I would accept the range 20 to 40% because that's official guidance, and I would think taking the midpoint of 30% or 25% or 35% is a reasonable starting point, but I would also undertake its sensitivity analysis to show what the outcome would be in the case of 20% and 40% optimism bias. That would be good practice.
Could you look, please, at the recognition of Mr. Kyle Drummond for the City of Edinburgh Council? Were you here yesterday, Dr. Conlon?
No.
All right. Well, could you look, please, at the recognition of Kyle Drummond? If you could look, please, at paragraph 5.10, page 4, and line 6 of that, Mr. Drummond states that the level of 20/22.5% quoted for 2022 does not seem unreasonable. Now, in relation to that matter, sorry, firstly, do you have that, Dr. Conlon? Am I going too quickly? Apologies if I am.
Section 5.6?
No, page 4, 5.10.
Sorry.
And it's line 6 of paragraph 5.10, where he says at the level of 20%, 25%, sorry, start again. The level of 20%/22.5% quoted for a particular year does not seem unreasonable.
Fine. Yep.
And do you agree or disagree with that?
I have no reason to disagree with that.
So, Dr. Conlon, the position is this, as I understand it, that you have never carried out an economic impact assessment for a hotel before. Is that correct?
That is correct.
You have been instructed here on behalf of those that may be thought to be a commercial competitor. Is that also correct, so far as you're aware?
Yes.
Thank you. And you have bluntly sought to pick holes in our calculations. Is that also correct?
I haven't sought to pick holes. I think they've been so evident that I've just highlighted where they exist.
And that even if you were correct about the various points that you make, which we don't accept, of course, even if you were correct, the potential economic benefit is well in excess of £100 million for the period that you earlier identified. Is that also correct?
No, that's not correct.
What is the position?
So the estimates that we came up with, so the estimates from the Oxford Economics papers suggest it's 100 to 120 million pounds. Our estimates range between 52 and 70 million pounds over the period.
And even if that were to be correct, which we don't accept, Dr. Conlon, these are very, very significant figures in favour of the proposal, aren't they?
No, there are positive benefits. There are positive economic benefits, and that's without doubt. The question as to whether they're significant is a different issue.
And what is the economic benefit of that site at this present time?
That's something that I haven't assessed. I've been asked to assess the proposed development, and that's what I've engaged in.
Well, let me help you a bit. Do you know the site is vacant?
Yes.
With security staff and is under some form of maintenance regime. Would it be going too far for an economist to accept that there therefore is no economic benefit from the site at the present time?
No, I wouldn't accept that at all. I think, as we identified in our first paper, so this is CD 580, we did incorporate a section about valuing cultural heritage, and we did indicate that, having the option or maintaining an option in terms of cultural heritage does have value. And there have been studies, and there is evidence, for different forms of cultural heritage, trying to understand the willingness of people to pay for maintaining cultural heritage. So even though the site is vacant, there is still a value of preserving the site.
Could I ask you to look back, please, at the precognition of Mr. Kyle Drummond, who is the economic officer of the council that actually owned this building?
Yep.
Do you have that again?
Yes.
Could you look at paragraph 3.1 and could you read that out?
The site in question has been largely mothballed since 2010, with only the former gate lodge still in use. The site therefore presently directly supports only a negligible level of economic activity. It is not considered that there is any serious prospect for the site being brought back into productive use without significant investment and some degree of redevelopment, given the poor condition of the mothballed buildings and their general obsolescence. So
do you agree with the professional judgment of the Senior Economic Development Officer of the City of Edinburgh Council, who actually own the building, that there is only a negligible level of economic activity? Do you agree or disagree with that, Dr. Conlon?
I agree with the statement as presented here, but that statement doesn't take into account the real option that exists in the building. So there's a whole branch of economics that discusses and considers what the value, having the right but not the obligation is. So
what is the real option that you have in mind? The building of our hotel?
No, well, I mean, the option, I mean, that is not for me to say.
Quite.
But I'm saying that some decisions are costly and irreversible, and in that case, there's an option by maintaining flexibility in terms of future use.
Yeah. What's that? Letting the building rot and continuing for the taxpayer to maintain it. Is that economically attractive to you, Doctor?
As a taxpayer, there might be benefit in that. There might be benefit in not undertaking a development. There might be a better use. There might be a better alternative use.
Yes, that's what you've been dying to say, isn't it? There might be a better use. Now, if I may...
No, I haven't. Sorry, can I just come back? I haven't been dying to say that at all. You asked the question. I'm just saying there might be a better alternative use. I don't know what that is.
Well,
okay, I don't know what
Now,
I'm just saying.
Dr. Conlon, can we just concentrate on the economics?
That's what I'm trying to
Insofar as the present time is concerned, there is negligible level of economic activity. If our proposal goes ahead, the benefit will be, if we are correct, well in excess of £100 million over the relevant period. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Well, what is
the estimates that have been presented in the Oxford Economics papers are just grossly inaccurate.
Dr. Conlon, if we are correct, the benefit will be in excess of £100 million.
But the probability of you being correct is 0.
Dr. Conlon, if we are correct, the figure will be in excess of £100 million. Surely that is not a difficult proposition.
Yeah, it's incorrect.
Thank you. And if you're correct, the range would drop somewhere between 50 and 70 million. On either view, these figures are very, very significant, given almost zero activity at the present time, are they not?
They're positive, yes.
Oh, come on, Dr. Conlon, they're extremely positive, aren't they?
No, they're positive. They're greater than 0.
Well, even I, with no maths O-level, can work that out, Dr. Conlon.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Conlon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steele. No, we have nothing. Mr. Innes would like to re-examine before the coffee break.
No, I think I'd rather have a coffee break if I may. And I would, before we start my re-examination, I'd want to make sure that we have the original versions of the net economic proposal 597 and 598 available. These were the two documents lodged before this inquiry in May, and I have copies of those, and I presume that other parties have them as well.
Are you suggesting there's more than one version of those
Yes, there is,
numbers?
sir. Yes, there is, sir.
How would I tell them apart?
They have a figure in CD 598 to re-examine on this, given the way in which Mr. Steele tried to take advantage of the change in figures, giving the impression it was Mr. Conlon that had caused the change in figures.
Let's just deal with the right documents for the moment.
If it assists, the specific point is that in CD 598, the original version, the displacement figure for the 147 hotel rooms was 66,240.
Page number?
Page number 23.
Sorry, what document number? I've completely
It's
lost
CD 598,
598.
page 23. The displacement was 66,240.
Right. Exhibit O, is that?
Yes.
I have a figure in front of me of 33667.
Yes, entirely so. And we'll come to how this has all happened, because this has been essentially used in cross-examination against my witness, and I'm certainly fully entitled to cross-examine on all the documents that have been lodged before this inquiry on this particular matter.
Well, sir, if it arises out of cross-examination, of course. But I don't recollect putting this document to this witness. But it's a matter for you, sir. And the document I have in front of me does not have that figure.
Well, sir, if I can make it easier, we can go to RHSPT.
Certainly be easier if that's
Yeah,
the document.
so you've got a context and you can think about it over tea. RHSPT document 4. we see under, have you got that?
Yes.
Under economic matters, it says, in addition, you have lodged a further research paper, this is to Mr McMurray, lodged HFST titled Potential for Cannibalisation. This has turned informed further economic assessment undertaken by Oxford, and I specifically clarify there that the claim there was that there was 66,000 displacement, and I identified that there was more than the capacity of the hotel. Do you see that?
Yes,
So,
yes,
so
I
that,
remember the correspondence.
so effectively what's happened is replaced versions of 658 and 597, sorry, 598 and 597 were submitted with the changed figure at the time of the lodging of documents.
Yes.
But as we'll come on to say, Dr. Conlon's original statement was based on these original documents. He then had to update his statement in line with those changes. That's the point I'm making in relation to re-examination, and it's just to make sure that people have those, or otherwise I don't want to be accused of, it may be that if the documents aren't available I may have to leap, but I've got the document trail here as to show that that was the case.
Okay, noted. We'll come back in at 22:12. Thank you. You have to behave yourself, of course, and not talk to anyone. You understand that?
No,
It's
what do I have to do for not to?
During the course.
on that, but you've got an email which gives us the information, I think, on which you can re-examine.
Well, so strictly speaking, those are documents before this inquiry. They've been lodged. But, I mean, I will happily deal with it on email on the basis of, I suspect everyone hasn't got them here, but they have been lodged. They were lodged with your office in May 2018. You'll find them on the DPA website, but they've probably not been lodged as, well, they were substituted is the best description.
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
we'll proceed on the basis of that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Conlon, could we first of all have a look at RHSP email, which is RHSPT 4.
Yes.
And we see there that this bears to be an email from myself to Mr. Mark McMurray dated the 22nd of June 2018. Is that correct?
Yes.
And the first bit is, obviously, we can swiftly pass over because we can get to economic matters. Do we see there that there's a reference to a lodged research paper called HVS entitled Potential for Cannibalisation of Demand? Do we see that?
Yes.
And it identifies that this has further in turn informed the economic assessment undertaken by Oxford Economics, which is document 597.
Yes.
Now, what the paper suggests is that having looked at those two papers and analysed the HVS information, that there's a suggestion that the 147-bedroom hotel was actually capturing more room nights than the rooms it had available over the year. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And either something was happening that the hotel rooms were perhaps being let out more than once a day.
Moving swiftly on.
We decided to query whether this was an accurate depiction of the luxury hotel.
Let's move on. It's so certainly the 66,240 is greater than what you would assume to be the maximum occupancy with 100% occupancy rate.
And effectively, that was the displacement rate was over 100%, effectively.
Yes.
And rather than wait for cross-examination or trying to take advantage of what's clearly an error, we chose to write to the appellants to seek to resolve the matter in advance of the inquiry. Do we see that?
Yes.
And do we see the last sentence, that we had sought to do this, given the timings, we would be keen to gain a response to the matters that have been raised within a period of 7 days. You have noted that this email has not been copied to the DPA, as we're seeking to try and make progress on this matter without involving the reporters at this stage. Is that correct?
Yes.
And if we're unable to reach any progress, we'll raise it with the reporters. Yes? Insofar as you had to prepare evidence and produce RHSPT1, which is a topic paper,
Yes.
was that based on the original CD598 figures produced by HVS?
Yes.
Did the Trust receive any substantive response to the issues that had raised in economic matters before documents had to be lodged?
No.
Okay. So, if you could have document 1 and 13 available,
Sure.
and if we could go to the page 3 of HVS or RHSPT 13, please.
Yep.
Do we see an amendment on paragraph 2?
Yes.
And
So-
what is
so
that
the
amendment?
The amendment is from the original estimated displacement of 66,240 room nights to the amended estimate of 33,667 room nights in 2022.
Now, as a consequence of the change, are there resultant changes in the document that derive directly from that change?
Absolutely. So in page 4, in the paragraph, 4 paragraphs from the bottom, starting with essentially, the estimate of, so in the original document it says, in the case of the 147-room development by between 22.1 and 44.3 million in present value terms, that's changed as a result of the change in the estimate of displacement from 22.1 to 44.3, and that's changed to 11.2 to 22.6.
If we look at the bullet point above, the second, not a filled-in bullet point, it says, in the case of the 147-room table, taking £185 per average, presumably that increase in value you'd had to multiply by the number of rooms that were being displaced.
Exactly. So it's
Yeah.
purely feeds straight through from number of room nights times the rate per night to go get those totals.
So I wonder if I
But
can...
it's, I was just going to finish. It's clear that it relates only to the 147-room. All the analysis relating to the proposed 127-room development is unchanged because there's no change in the assumption about displacement in respect to 127. So it's just the error in relation to the information provided on displacement with respect to the 147-room development.
So, simply to try and assist with progress in this matter, sir, I don't dispute what is being put. The difficulty that I had is that I had 3 different documents in front of me with significantly different figures, and I was trying to establish, because they hadn't been amended so far as I'm aware, and therefore I was trying to establish what the witness's position currently was. No more than that.
I think that's being confirmed for us now.
I appreciate my learned friend's lack of an early level, but if one looks at all the analysis, is it directly related to that change?
It's directly related to that error in the information about expected displacement with respect to the 147-room development and the fact that the original estimate of displacement exceeded total annual occupancy at 100% rate.
And professionally, did you think it was the right thing to make the appellants aware of this particular matter in advance of documents being exchanged?
I always think it's good for individuals who have to make a very important decision to have all the information in front of them. I think it's very important that all the information is evidence-based and the calculations have been done properly. We were asked to undertake the analysis with the best available information, and when we first undertook the analysis, it was with an incorrect piece of information from HBS. And as soon as we were made aware of the correct information, we revised the analysis. It's a shame that there was track changes, etc., but the revised evidence that we submit is based on best available information.
Thank you. You were asked a series of questions about CD419, okay, which was the committee report, as I recall, in relation to the 2015 application. could you be given a copy? You don't need the document. I have to say, we'll come to its worth in due course. If you could be given document CD 56, please, which is the original 2015 economic impact assessment for the proposals.
Okay.
Are you aware of this document?
No.
Do you want to have a couple of minutes just to have a quick look at the terms of the document, appreciating that you've appraised the 2017 version of the document?
Again, obviously, it's a matter for you, sir, but I don't recollect putting this document to this witness in cross-examination.
Well, how can that be a basis that he was put to the conclusions that were reached on the basis of the document? I'm quite entitled to go to the actual document and then ask him about that document. That's all I'm doing.
That's what I thought, yes. Carry on.
Were there any specific...
Just in terms of the approach that's been adopted to the assessment, is it on a gross basis?
It appears to be on a gross basis, so there's no account taken of displacement.
Insofar as we now have the net figures available, even on the appellant's position, has that changed from the 2015 position, and is that represented in their net assessment 597?
So none of the attempts to strip out the displacement effect or optimism bias is reflected in this 2015 document as far as I'm aware. So the estimates here will be an overestimate, a significant, very significant overestimate of the net economic impact.
Okay. And what would you say about conclusions that have been reached on that document compared to conclusions which should properly have regard to the net impact?
Well, sir, if this document is going to be live, I really do think attention should be drawn to the fact that it quite clearly states that it's gross, not net, and it was supplied to an economic development department who would clearly understand the issue. And I refer in particular to page 13 of this document, sir. Put frankly, sir, there's no scope for an experienced economic department misunderstanding the position. It expressly says it's gross, and the economic department of the council would have no doubt read that and understood it.
I mean, I think it's very interesting. It says a net study would, by contrast, seek to show only the value created by the project in excess of that which would have been supported by deploying these resources in the next most effective use. I think this is something I mentioned previously. But it's not an economic impact analysis. If you don't take into account these issues of displacement and optimism bias, it's not an economic impact analysis. There's another issue about, you know, I don't know about the 2015 analysis, but certainly the 2017 analysis. So this would be CD 204. Computationally, there are errors. There are a number of errors. It literally isn't an economic impact analysis. So no decision can be based on that type of information. It is, you know, really it's equivalent to something that you would read in a newspaper. There's no rigor or substance underpinning the analysis. And therefore, to make a decision based on that, it would be, it's just misleading.
And insofar as the approach that you would advocate, would it always be to promote the use of net basis in terms of appropriate decision making?
I think you have to. I think there are 3 or 4 major components of an economic impact analysis. One is you use transparent and traceable information. Number 2 is, even with that transparent and traceable information, you take a view about it. It's never going to be perfect information. So you will always attempt to, stress test it. You put in a sensitivity analysis check that the numbers hold up, and you try and check to see which assumptions underpinning the analysis drive the results. And that's a very important thing to do. The net versus gross is probably the biggest issue. You have to understand the effect in the wider marketplace. And to undertake a gross economic impact analysis without considering displacement, it's just simply, it goes against all the guidance that any organisation should adopt when making decisions. There's also issues about the calculations. So one of the biggest issues that we found in the 2017 analysis was there was no attempt to discount future streams of benefits. So it was all considered in nominal terms. Basically, the assumption that £100 in 5 years' time is worth the same as £100 today, and it's not. And any study that doesn't accurately discount and present everything in today's money terms is just wrong. It has no credibility. And the final point is, and this again relates to the evidence, you look at all the evidence, and you don't just select the piece of evidence that sort of fits the case or fits your side of the story. You have to look at all the evidence and take a view about the probability that it's accurate and how the data was collected and whether, if it's an academic paper, whether it's peer-reviewed. If it's a survey, if it's analysis based on a survey, such as visitors coming to Edinburgh and why they came to Edinburgh, you don't just look at one source. You have to understand whether the visitors coming to Edinburgh, is that representative? Or is it a particular niche market? Is it young people? Is it older people? Who is it? So you have to look at all the evidence. And the whole reason for undertaking sensitivity analysis is to say, well, we might not be perfectly correct on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to just change some of these assumptions and see what happens. And essentially that's what we did. So we looked at the net instead of the gross. We did the calculations correctly. We weren't selective about the evidence. And we tried to do a sensitivity analysis, for instance, on room rates, to show that is £135 an accurate room rate for a prestigious hotel? I wouldn't have thought so. So when you undertake these additional components of analysis, as in Greenbook guidance, which is basically the Bible of how to undertake an economic impact analysis, the results are very different. And the net economic impact, instead of being hundreds of millions of pounds, it's tens. Okay? That's all.
Any more questions, Mr. Innes?
Yes, I do have quite a lot more, actually.
No is a perfectly acceptable answer.
I was trying to get to that probably slightly more slowly and more systematically, but I think we probably saved a lot of time. Could we now have a look at CD 597, please?
Yes.
Sorry, it's actually 598, I think.
Yes.
And can we actually have a look at what's proposed? Can we look at, it doesn't really matter, we could use the 147 or the 127. If we just go to page 19, that will be a lesser figure.
Sure.
Now, this appears in the context of essentially a sample set of properties of 130 with a number of rooms of about 8,000. And do we see Exhibit J has a position of occupancy without and occupancy with? Do we see that? What does that show happens in terms of the existing suppliers in Exhibit J?
So this information in Exhibit J indicates the number of rooms, occupied rooms, in the set of circumstances where there is the proposed hotel and where there is not the proposed hotel.
And what happens with?
With the level, the number of rooms occupied is less than if there was no hotel, and the difference is 29,152.
Yeah. And so, whilst Mr. Steele might have talked about that possibly being replaced on the basis of their own analysis, it's a displacement. Is that correct?
That was suggested, yes. Yeah. But clearly that won't be the case because the level of occupancy is less than 100%. There is no, the hotelier sector in Edinburgh is not turning away people. Certain hotels might be fully occupied, but it's certainly not the case across the whole sector. So this 29,000 rooms that are lost from existing hotels is not as if there are 29,000 individuals who will queue up and take those rooms.
So I wonder if it's really fair to suggest that that is our position, because as I read it, we then go on in 2 paragraphs in another table to explain what our position actually is, as I read it. But it's a matter for you, sir. That's a starting point.
I think this is used in the.
Well, I wonder, Dr. Collin, I'm addressing the reporters.
Oh, didn't realise that.
I'll note that. Thank you.
Because is there a difference between whether economically subsequently there might be an increase in growth negate the fact that there's been displacement?
No, because the one thing that would occur in the presence or in the absence of a proposed hotel is the wider economy. The wider economy will carry on growing or shrinking or whatever it does in cycles. But what we try and do in an economic impact analysis is strip out these contextual factors. We hold everything else constant. So essentially what this is saying is to compare apples with apples, you compare the level of occupancy with and without the hotel, and you come to 29,000 displacement effect in the 127-room hotel.
Does this help on essentially give us an indication of what 5,000 rooms looks like even in this sector? 5,000 room nights per annum against what appears to be a total captured in 2022 of 2,379,430. Does that help put 5,000 rooms?
It does. It does, and it does. One thing it will do, the 5,000 total of, just say 30. Estimated based. Which means that
of the we'll talk about page 9. the fact. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And I want to just turn lastly to a bit about sensitivity analysis and optimism bias. If a study did not include any sensitivity analysis, would that have an effect on your opinion as to the rate of optimism bias that should be applied?
Well, I think every study...
Yeah, I think you're off.
Every study has to... analysis. It might be very, very small. Can I take a... assume the government writes off an awful lot of student loans. Growth. Growth was 3%. That's a very change. 1% checker, £700 million a year. Okay. So if I was doing a sensitivity analysis, trying to value the student loan book, I would undertake a sensitivity analysis looking at earnings growth for graduates. In the exact same way, I would always undertake a sensitivity analysis for something like optimism bias. The issue with optimism bias is no business, no organization goes into business with the expectation that it's going to shut down in a couple of years' time. Every business, rightly or wrongly, overstates its expected revenues and understates its expected costs. It's human nature. That's why people have contingency funds when they're doing renovations on a house. Costs always spiral. So, optimism bias is there specifically to just temper things a little bit and just to say to people, just hold on. The revenues you're predicting, they might be on the high side, and the costs you're predicting, they might be on the low side. So let's just introduce a bit of something to keep things sensible. And that's why we introduce optimism bias. And then within optimism bias, we'll adjust the assumption. So what if we've been sort of marginally optimistic or very optimistic, and we'll just downscore the revenues and upscale the costs and just get a more realistic picture that we can make decisions on.
If you, in an analysis, hadn't been given key aspects of data, including the underlying basis on which the main economic data was based, how would that influence your answer on optimism bias?
It makes everything a little more uncertain, but as we've demonstrated, it's possible to find reasonable indications for instance, average room rates, for occupancy rates, for costs of delivery, etc., etc. It's possible to find broad estimates. And what I would have done is I would have provided a range of estimates for revenues. And if there was confidential information, I would have said, well, in case of this particular hotel, it's in that range somewhere. I don't have to disclose that confidential information, but I can sort of say it's in a range. And I can make the range as tight or as wide as I like. But again, I would provide a range and I provide some broad estimate of what the expected economic impact might be.
So even in circumstances where there may be commercially sensitive information, you believe there may be ways in which that may be translated in a manner which avoided key assumptions not being put forward?
Absolutely. Even central government departments, they are paranoid about providing disclosive information about individuals. So they suppress information based on small sample sizes, specifically so you can't identify an individual in this case. But they have means and methods for you to actually present analysis based on small samples essentially by adding in a small randomization. So you can't precisely identify an individual, but you can use the information in such a way to inform a decision. But there are always ways of slightly obscuring the information or providing a range that you can use that information, but you don't have to disclose it.
Lastly, Dr. Cavan, you were asked a lot of questions about not having a tell experience. How often do you, when you're conducting or reviewing economic analysis, is it a question of getting to understand things that you may not have been involved with before?
There's two aspects of that. I'm an expert in economic impact analyses and the application of Green Book methodology to provide best-in-class economic impact analyses. In relation to the sector of the economy where they take place, it's important to have some understanding, but it's not in any way crucial. A lot of the analysis that I undertake are for instance, chip makers, the economic impact of Intel in the UK, and honestly, significantly more complex economic impact analysis because there's catalytic effects. Intel produces ever so slightly better computer chips, and people can send emails a bit quicker, and that saves time and effort. And try and put a value on that, it's very, very difficult. So the complexity of the other sectors that I work in is significantly more complex than a hotel operation. Many of the studies that I undertake are economic impact analyses of universities. So recently I undertook one for the Russell Group, Russell Group of universities, including Glasgow and Edinburgh University. And you're trying to put a value on graduate earnings over the next 40 years. You're trying to put a value on academic research over the next 10, 20 years. These are very, very complex, but you always refer back to what's reasonable, and you always refer back to the Green Book, and you follow the set of rules that they outline. And the rules are there specifically to ensure that individuals don't make decisions based on misleading information and numbers that are plucked out of the air.
Thank you very much, Dr. Cavan.
Thank you, Mr. Innes. Dr. Conlon.
Thank you very much.
I would leave Mr. McIntosh and your witness.
Yes, I wonder if I could get a couple of minutes just to set up Dr. Batas at his table with his things. Just 5 minutes.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
4 past.
Thank you.
So, Dr. Batas is the only witness for the coalition, as it were, in this session. And Dr. Batas, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Do you have your precognition with you, along with your scoping report, which is CD 517,
Yes.
the long report, which is CD 527, and the short report, which is CD 526?
Yes, I do.
You do, right. Well, what I'm asking you to do is to read your precognition, and there are 3 points on which I will stop you to raise an issue of, well, just an extra issue of clarification. And the first of those is towards the end of paragraph 3. Please don't read out the references in brackets to academic papers, because if the reporters need to go there, I'm sure they can find those later.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So good morning. Good afternoon. So I'm the lecturer in International Business at the Department of International Business and Economics, an MBA International Business, and MA in International Business Program Leader, University of Greenwich, London. I hold my PhD in International Business and Strategy from the University of Edinburgh and was examined by Professor Jan Johansson of Uppsala University. I previously gained an MSc in International Business and Emerging Markets from the University of Edinburgh. I obtained an MSc by research in Labour Economics, Human Resource Management and Innovation from the University of Aix-Marseille and CNRS. I also hold a BSc in Economics from the University of Piraeus and a BSc in Business Administration. Prior to arriving at Greenwich in 2017, I worked at the University of Northampton as a lecturer in Strategy and International Business, where I led 2 courses and acted as a Deputy Program Leader. I was hired by Edinburgh World Heritage in 2011 to analyze and explain the importance of Edinburgh's World Heritage Site in economic terms. EWH hired me based on my academic background and experience. I had support during the study from a number of institutions such as the University of Edinburgh, University of Leicester, City of Edinburgh Council. In order to highlight the importance of this study, I initially prepared a scoping report to present to EWH staff and trustees to set out the necessity of this project and to establish the baseline economic instruments to measure the impact of World Heritage Site status on the City of Edinburgh. After the scoping report, I designed a survey with the assistance of an EWH intern and Dr. Rebecca Matkin. The collected data were analyzed and I scrutinized the results in order to identify some patterns and to calculate the willingness to pay of residents, tourists and businesses. I also prepared the final reports with the assistance of Dr. Rebecca Matkin. That means short and long version, which were distributed to all stakeholders of Edinburgh World Heritage. The project was primarily funded from Edinburgh World Heritage and partly from the University of Leicester. There are various methodologies that have been used by environmental economists to value the benefits provided by a site. These methodologies assist researchers to value cultural heritage sites. The methodologies can be grouped into different categories. Some methodologies measure values directly, while some others take into consideration the different ranges of value. According to some researchers, the direct value techniques are the most appropriate for cultural heritage goods. The methods that I reviewed were the following: market price methods, the travel cost methods, hedonic methods, benefit transfers, which is not a methodology per se, and contingent valuation methodology, or CVM. The market price methods use, for example, entrance fees to museums or other cultural heritage sites to calculate their revenues. However, it is important to stress that many cultural goods are not market goods. The travel cost methods measures the value from observed behavior. For example, the amount that tourists spend to visit the site. This method can show the potential demand curve from the visited site's services. The hedonic methods use property values to calculate the value of a site. However, this methodology has a number of limitations, such as an assumption that the market operates perfectly and that prices reflect the willingness of pay of the consumers. The benefits transfer use findings from other studies to calculate values in other cases and contexts. Since regions differ, the accuracy of the results is low. The contingent valuation methodology is a technique where consumers are asked directly how much they are willing to pay in order to obtain an environmental good. The analyst should always give a detailed description of the good during the survey. CVM surveys in the heritage sector prefer practical information for managers of the heritage sector and people who are responsible for the decision-making process. Paggiola stresses the reasons why CVM is more accurate than hedonic techniques to measure the aesthetic benefits. 1. CVM allows a sharper definition of aesthetic dimensions. 2. Generates data rather than relying on proxies. 3. Imposes few assumptions except that intentions accurately reflect actions. And 4. Yields plausible results. A large number of authors consider CVM as the best technique to estimate the total economic value of cultural heritage. A survey can be used to collect data where the good being valued must be clearly described. Therefore, the interviews are time-consuming. For more accurate results, face-to-face interviewing is recommended. The CVM has been supported and suggested by the World Bank, UNESCO, and PricewaterhouseCoopers.
Dr. Baratas, could you just explain who was the client for the piece of work done by PricewaterhouseCoopers? I think it might be the footnote.
Yes. So this report was entitled The Cost and Benefits of World Heritage Site Status in the UK, full report, and it was prepared for the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, CADW and Historic Scotland by PricewaterhouseCoopers in December 2007.
Thank you. Just read on, please.
Yes. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, panel on contingent valuation, which was co-chaired by Kenneth Arrow and Robert Solow, prominent scholars and economists, also favored CVM. Based on previous studies, I decided to adopt the CVM in the EWH project. 3 questionnaires were developed for 3 categories of people to be sampled. That means residents, business, and visitors. The data were collected online using SurveyMonkey and offline by conducting face-to-face interviews. Almost 1,000 respondents returned the questionnaires. The survey took place in 2 different temporal phases. The first phase took place from August to October 2011, and the second one from September to October 2011. The contingent valuation methodology helped me with the support of other researchers to calculate the willingness to pay of residents, businesses, and visitors. This also allowed us to calculate the highest willingness to pay amount of the 3 categories to support the restoration, conservation, and maintenance of Edinburgh's World Heritage Site. We asked the respondents to think a particular scenario based on the guidelines of previous studies conducted in this topic, where public spending was reduced, causing buildings to deteriorate and eventually to be replaced. We clearly highlighted to the respondents that their answers will not be used to impose higher taxes. We also used a statistical software, or SPSS, to code all the answers and run a regression analysis. The regression analysis helped us to identify patterns and correlations between the different variables that we used. For example, in our analysis, the dependent variable was the willingness to pay, and one of the independent variables, the income of the respondents. By using this statistical software, we were able to calculate the willingness to pay and to calculate the total economic value of Edinburgh's World Heritage Site. Our analysis was based on quantitative and qualitative approaches. I should also highlight that the case of Edinburgh's World Heritage Site is unique in terms of characteristics. That means the World Heritage Site encompasses parts of the city and not just a number of monuments. This validates our point that the site is a driving economic force and part of the city's fabric. 489 residents and 295 visitors completed the questionnaire. A third of the respondents, residents 36% and visitors 31%, believed in the importance of maintaining, conserving, and retaining the World Heritage Site for future generations. Most of the residents, 91.7%, had heard about the Edinburgh World Heritage Site, and almost the same percentage, 91%, stated that it is beneficial for the city. The rationale behind supporting the cost of repair is either conservation for future generations, 37.8%, or that they feel, that means the residents, that it's generally important to preserve all heritage sites. Those, that means residents, who are less willing to contribute financially, tend to feel that conservation should be financed by the government, 23% of the respondents. The rationale behind supporting the cost of repair is either because the visitors feel it's generally important to preserve the city centre for future generations, 31%, or they feel the conservation of the site is important in general, 30%. Those, that means visitors, who are less willing to contribute financially, tend to feel that conservation should be financed by the government, 57.6%. The total economic value of residents and visitors is £1,327,922,000 by using the high unit value, or £1,129,821,000 by using the low unit value. The number of total households in the city of Edinburgh and the number of tourists were multiplied by the willingness to pay found in our study. The present value is calculated over 30 years with a 3.5% discount rate as per the Green Book guidance. We selected a 30-year time horizon as this suffices and is appropriate for the old and new towns of Edinburgh's World Heritage Site. 185 businesses completed the questionnaire. It is also important to highlight that 43% of the businesses surveyed defined their business as part of the tourism sector. 35.8% of businesses are willing to pay. This is lower rate compared to the willingness of pay of residents and visitors. However, businesses are more willing to contribute a higher amount, £429.85, compared to the highest amount visitors and residents are willing to pay. Businesses that are willing to contribute financially towards the conservation of the World Heritage Site believe that the site is important for future generations, 18%, local communities, 20%, the importance of the site, 30%, and that all heritage is important, 32%, which highlights the necessity of preserving the World Heritage Site. From the businesses that were not willing to pay, 72% felt that conservation should be financed by the public-private sector. A quote from a business response highlights the benefits accruing from the World Heritage Sites. It attracts tourists to the city. It also means that the council will look after the historic buildings and special architecture of Edinburgh in order to hold on the World Heritage status. There is a high correlation between the amount that respondents are willing to pay and their awareness of the World Heritage Site. In other words, the highest the awareness, the highest the willingness to pay. To make this clearer in monetary terms, residents who had heard of the World Heritage Site were willing to pay £46 compared to £28 to those who had not heard of the site. The same applies to businesses and visitors. That means £434 compared to £300 and £15.54 compared to £13.41 respectively. Those results highlight that there is a positive correlation between the quality of the heritage environment and the quality of life. Respondents from across the age spectrum, income levels and gender all indicate a commitment to the World Heritage Site. Regarding the age of respondents, residents younger than 24 and older than 60, and visitors aged between 25 and 39 were more willing to contribute financially. Almost equally, males and females were willing to support the World Heritage Site. An interesting fact: visitors in the lowest income band up to £1,599 or income group support the World Heritage. This demonstrates the mention that the willingness to pay in print value high, even you to our fine where include monetary commitment and link side. VM uses value is that it is times to trade. Very good example to illustrate buildings are that and so. However, the experience of walking within the world is hard to find. The intrinsic and economic value of the World Heritage Site is very high since it can be perceived as a public good that could leave a long-term legacy for future generations. Public goods have two characteristics. One, they are non-excludable. Second, they are non-rival. For example, sightseeing in the historic centre of Edinburgh is not an excludable activity. No charge is made for entry and persons cannot be excluded from visiting the World Heritage Site. The site is also non-rival as the appreciation of the World Heritage Site by one person does not reduce the amount by which another person can appreciate it. The outstanding universal value of Edinburgh's World Heritage Site is therefore a public good, and the Royal High School, along with other monuments and sites such as Carlton Hill, Prison Street Gardens, the Castle and the New Town contribute to that public good. The value of the World Heritage Site comes from its nature as perceived by the residents, businesses and visitors who appreciate it. If the outstanding universal value of the World Heritage Site is damaged by the appellant's proposal, then it is reasonable to think that the value to residents, business and visitors will be reduced. In conclusion, the high willingness to pay demonstrates the high value of the World Heritage Site and its importance to residents, businesses and visitors. When preparing the scoping report, we discovered that according to a survey conducted by TripAdvisor and UNESCO, the old and new towns of Edinburgh World Heritage Site is the most recommended UK World Heritage Site. This stresses, in very simple terms, the importance of the old and new towns and the importance for conservation action. There are some studies that have found the paramount role of heritage tourism and how it can act as a driving force for further economic development. The World Heritage Site status acts as a very influential factor in attracting visitors to Edinburgh. The historical and architectural uniqueness of Edinburgh can be seen by its recognition as a World Heritage Site, which needs to be protected in order to maintain the World Heritage Site status. The main attraction of Edinburgh is its iconic scenery. The unique architecture will enchant visitors. There is a strong public case to protect it. There are studies that have found that heritage visitors spend higher amounts than the average visitor, $615 compared to $425 respectively. Another ratio that is being used to help decision-making people is the benefit-cost ratio. In our study, the benefit-cost ratio for the highest estimate benefit, that means the total economic value of the World Heritage Site, based on a fictitious $6 million public realm project for the financial year 15-16 in George Street, is 12.75. The benefit-cost ratio for the lowest estimate benefit of the World Heritage Site, based on the same fictitious project, is 10.56. The ratio is much higher than 1, which indicates that the fictitious project should be supported. To generalize the findings of the benefit-cost ratio, the World Heritage Site is important for the city's fabric and should be financed and protected by the decision makers. Projects that do not support or respect the World Heritage Sites may have a negative impact in the long term. For example, changes to important building and place in the World Heritage Site can endanger its status and cause it to lose its public good character. This is not simply limited to an assessment of the impact of a proposed change to the fabric part of the World Heritage Site, but would also apply when a building loses its public character to the extent that it no longer fits the characteristic of the non-excludability. In the case of a hotel, the building will be primarily used by its guests. I have read the reports prepared for the appellancies by Oxford Economics and the reports prepared for the Royal High School Preservation Trust. I have a number of concerns about the work by Oxford Economics and agree and lean towards the conclusion of Dr. Conlon. I share his concerns regarding the methodology and the lack of transparency caused by the lack of detail about the methodology and the formulas that they use to analyze the results. I am particularly concerned that in their 3 reports, Oxford Economics did not, 1, follow the guidelines of Her Majesty's Treasury's Green Book for similar projects, that means on the evaluation of the benefits accruing from the proposed hotel. Second, discount the found values, again, as suggested by a number of academic studies. And third, take account of the displacement effects by displacing economic activity from existing hotels in the city of Edinburgh. I was struck how, in their first and second reports, and then in the inquiry report of Mr. Andrew Logan, Oxford Economics, have made direct comparisons about how the predicted tax revenues from the hotel could pay for a certain number of nurses or police officers to be employed. In my opinion, such a comparison is simplistic. But if the appellants wish to argue that the funding of the employment of that many public servants is reason to justify their proposals, then, in my opinion, it is necessary...
Could it be there's a few words missing?
Yeah,
here?
missing, yes. So
could you perhaps add them in?
It is necessary to consider in the balance importance of preserving and protecting Edinburgh's World Heritage Site, and Oxford Economics and Mr. Logan have not considered this issue. Not only that, but Oxford Economics do not justify how a hotel of this type is important for the city of Edinburgh and how such a hotel would encourage tourists to visit Edinburgh, since our research is that visitors state that the main reason to visit Edinburgh is linked to its unique architecture and heritage, of which the World Heritage Site is such an important part. The authors have not clarified and demonstrated the need of a 6-star hotel in Edinburgh, an exclusive hotel that will remove the public character of the existing building, but it may be that they were not asked to consider this question. The assessment of benefits considers heritage benefits from conservation and restoration actions. The model used in our study for EWH did not directly calculate the improved economic prospects in the city of Edinburgh arising from improvement or protection of the World Heritage Site. However, it is widely accepted that conservation projects and Heritage Act as a catalyst for the economy of cities and places and can be perceived as an economic driver. The uniqueness of Edinburgh attracts visitors and plays an important part of the well-being of local communities and residents. I would also like to add that historic buildings have different origins and tend to be heterogeneous. For example, the Royal High School represents a unique listed building that if respondents in our survey had known the future plans, then they would support its protection. The main concluding points from our study are that, one, across the socio-economic spectrum of respondents, there is commitment to Edinburgh's World Heritage Site. Second, almost two-thirds of residents and visitors are willing to contribute financially for the restoration, maintenance, and conservation of the World Heritage Site. Third, Edinburgh's World Heritage Site is seen as a public good where it should be protected for future generations. Fourth, businesses were less willing to contribute financially. However, their average willingness to pay is higher compared to the willingness to pay of residents and visitors. I would like to conclude by quoting the response of a resident. It is a duty of government and the local council to fund, through taxes already collected elsewhere, the first and foremost asset that gives the city its recognized appeal throughout the world, its stunning and unique architectural imprint.
Thank you, Dr. Battis. I don't think we need to read the list of documents. I have no more questions, but it may be that Mr. Steele has questions for you.
Indeed. Do you, Mr. Steele?
No, sir, I don't. No cross-examination. Thank you.
And nothing from the reporters, so no need for any re-examination.
Thank you.
That's lightly, Dr. Battis. Thank you.
Very much.
That concludes the evidence of these inquiry sessions. Thank you very much. Mr.
Sir,
Barrett.
just before you do that, there's a couple of matters from us. Firstly, I need formally to move. I think maybe my learned friend should go first because he needs to move to receive the joint statement.
I have something else as well, so just to be...
That was just what I was going to do first.
Mr. Thompson.
The joint statement regarding the ultimate long stop date, I would formally seek to tender that now as an inquiry document.
Have the other parties seen that?
Yes.
And no one's concerned about the lodging of the document?
It's wonderful to see it.
Perfect. In that case, we're very happy to accept it. Will this have a document number?
Well, I was thinking perhaps the last of the CD numbers, or might be the appropriate place to put it.
You don't have that at your fingertips,
Well,
Mr.
not just a
Steele.
minute. Pardon? 765. Is that the last one? Or this? 764 is the last one, so 765 will be the new one.
Thanks for that, Paul.
And in addition, sir, if I may, lodge a document from Mr. Gibb, notwithstanding he's on holiday, concerning the lift situation. I've already given a copy to Mr. Innes. I don't know whether he's had a chance to look at it or not, but I'd like formally to lodge that as I think that would then be document 766.
Have you seen that document, Mr.
I've seen the document. It goes further than the homework that was set for Mr. Gibb, and I'm concerned about that, sir. So the issue that was raised with Mr. Gibb was about whether the 2015 scheme had been designed in a particular manner. The note that's given back not only comments on the 2015 scheme, but seeks to cast doubt on the 2017 position as well, which was not within the remit of the note. And that's why I'm not content with this to be lodged at this stage, because it's also inconsistent with what the evidence was given. So I have concern about this.
Mr. Steele?
Well, sir, I wasn't aware of that. I don't see how it casts any doubt in the 2017 scheme. In short, as I understand it, Mr. Gibb was asked about the regulations and why there was a difference between Scheme 1 and Scheme 2. And again, I don't have the document in front of me, but he's explained that both schemes, he's explained the regulations, and both schemes are compliant for reasons that he sets out there.
Is it simply factual, Mr.
No,
Innes?
it's not factual.
Well,
If it's not factual, is it information that would nonetheless be helpful to the inquiry?
Well, the position is, sir, what the position is that the appellants are trying to change their position in relation to 2017 scheme after giving evidence in relation to it. And that's my concern. I would have probably cross-examined Mr. Gibb differently if that information had been available, and it's not been made available until today. And the position was only in relation to the 2015 scheme. When he was asked, he said, I'm not sure, I want to go away and think about that. And that's when I allowed him to go off and do that. But it was in relation to the 2015 scheme, not a 2017 scheme, where there was clear evidence given in relation to that and why it had been designed in a
Sir, I'm in your hands. It is my submission that this is information that would be helpful to the inquiry. We are not changing our position. We are setting out, as I have to say I understood it, the explanation about the difference between the two schemes and the introduction of the regulations, if they are regulations, or standards actually more accurately, and how both schemes comply. And we're also explaining why there's a discrepancy between the height of the two lift shafts, or lift overruns, I should say. I, at the moment, don't see any difficulty about it, but it may be that Mr. Innes would like to consider over the weekend, and if he's back here on Tuesday, we can discuss it then.
I hadn't anticipated, but it looks like I might be making a cameo first thing.
Sir, there's a couple of other matters from me as well before you formally close the inquiry. I have to intimate to the inquiry a motion for expenses against the Edinburgh World Heritage Trust. I would propose to deal with that, sir. I have formally made the motion now, and the details of that could follow in the closing submission in due course with an appropriate period to the Trust to respond to that, rather than take up time now. And my learned friend obviously would require time to answer that. So that would be my proposal for dealing with that matter. As I understand it, a letter has been supplied already, and this will be no surprise to my learned friend or his clients.
Sir,
Mr. McIntosh.
it isn't a surprise. I would, however, suggest that given the reasons that Mr. Steele and those instructing him have given to me for making the application, if I keep it that vague at the moment, in my submission it needs to be dealt with faster and possibly separate from the final submissions. And it can be dealt with, I think, relatively quickly. And I would suggest that you give Mr. Steele a short period, perhaps a week or so, to provide details, and then give me a week beyond that. The reason being is that, keeping it without getting into the merits of it, it appears to relate to things that have happened that are not in evidence. And therefore, I'm concerned that if it's incorporated into the submissions, it may inadvertently have the effect of adding in material which has been discussed in this inquiry, but which has not been lodged. And therefore, I would be much happier, bearing in mind the terms of the circular, if it was a sort of standalone process in a box. And that would also have the advantage of not getting in the way of the issue. And I get the impression from the circular that it is a separate issue from the merits of the inquiry. So my proposal is, I'm very happy that we give Mr. Steele 2 weeks to produce his written letter, and then he give me a week to respond. I'm comfortable with that, but I think it should be dealt with separately. Worth just saying at this point, as I intimated to you informally before we started, in the light of the evidence of Mr. Kett and Mr. Finney, particularly, but also Professor Murray. I was able to consult with all the three organisations I'm acting for, and I therefore withdraw our expenses claim, because whilst I'm not sure I agree with it, there is, I think, a colourable reason for doing what the appellants have done, which I've complained about. So I'm formally withdrawing that now, and I won't need to make any submissions about it.
Thanks for that, Mr McIntosh. Mr Steele, I think our preference would be to separate that issue out from the closing submissions. 2 weeks plus 1 week sounds reasonable to me.
It sounds very reasonable. The difficulty is that I will have very, very limited availability over the next couple of weeks. So,
how long would you need to produce that?
I would strongly prefer about 6 weeks, realistically, to give the matter proper attention for various reasons.
Again, without going into the merits, the information that is not lodged all relates to activities that occurred in the middle part of 2017. I therefore can see no reason why it would take 6 weeks to construct what I would imagine would be a short and pithy and no doubt forceful submission. And I'm also quite keen in general, when we come to discuss submissions in general, I think we could all benefit, possibly apart from you, of having this off our desks before Christmas. And if we go for 6 weeks, the whole thing is just heading towards a time when, whilst I appreciate you've got a lot of work to do from now on, I would certainly be much happier having it lodged. So it may be a little bit longer than 2, but 6 weeks I think is far too long, if only because we're dealing with stuff that's been known about for years, and I have armfuls of correspondence sitting in my computer, and presumably Mr Steele has it too, so it shouldn't take that long.
Well, that may or may not be correct, sir. The difficulty is I'm intending to be out of the country, and I'd strongly prefer not to be dealing with expenses against anybody other than Edinburgh World Heritage Trust during that period.
Just so I understand, is it just one expenses claim against just the Edinburgh World Heritage, not the
Indeed.
And also, it's worth observing, and correctly, it relates to action that occurred not in the inquiry session. And in the light of the circular, I think it can be dealt with much faster.
It cannot relate to matters out with the inquiry session. It's expenses arising as a result of conduct, unreasonable conduct in relation to the inquiry. That could be the only basis for it. If my learned friend is referring to the letter, I haven't even, some particular letter, I haven't even read that letter, so I don't know what's in it.
Okay. On the basis then that Mr Steele simply isn't going to be available in the next 6 weeks, or earlier than that.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Mr Steele's making an application for expenses in this inquiry. I take it that Mr Steele has an evidential basis for that he himself and he is aware of. If he doesn't have an evidential basis because he hasn't read it, he shouldn't be making an application for expenses. I don't think he needs 6 weeks, but I'll put him in your hand.
Well, only Mr Steele and those that are instructing him can know what his evidential basis is. 6 weeks seems too long to me, but if you're absolutely adamant that you can't produce it in advance of that...
No, I'm adamant about nothing, sir. I will interrupt my time away if necessary to do that, but realistically, having regard to the fact that I will be away and other commitments, that is a reasonable period. But if that's not convenient to you, then other steps will be taken. And can I just respond to the point that's been made by my learned friend? If there wasn't a basis for the motion, I would not be making it. And I don't intend to say anything more about that suggestion.
Okay, 4 weeks plus 1 week for that, and we'd like it to be kept quite separate from the closing submissions.
From today, so
yes.
Just to avoid confusion and all that sort of thing, today being I've sort of lost track of time, when are we? Today's the 19th, so 4 weeks is the 16th, and we would respond by the 23rd.
Sounds right.
Thank you.
Okay, I've got some things to raise. Does anyone else have anything before I do that?
Sir, I was simply, if I may, going to thank all the objectors for attending the inquiry. The effect of them attending and subjecting our proposals to the fullest possible scrutiny has meant that they have had an opportunity to explore all of this, and we've had an opportunity to explain our proposals in an independent and unbiased forum, possibly for the first time. And we thank you, sir, both of you, for ensuring that this has indeed been an impartial and independent forum. And this, of course, confirms the clear advantages of having a public inquiry. Now, finally, sir, on a much more important matter, I understand that Mr Innes has placed his entire fee on legal tender at 2 o'clock in Haydock. I have to advise him that he will lose that bet because, as serendipity would have it, he's up against a rank outsider at 16-1 called Steely Spirit.
Mr Innes had noticed that this morning, Mr Steele.
Well, I hope so.
Anything from anyone else?
Yes, I just wanted to respond to that and say Steely Spirit's got very poor form recently, so no doubt his prospects will be poor. I just want to say, obviously, thank you, sirs, for the manner in which you've conducted the inquiry, but I did want to single out Keith Gellatry for all the work that he has done in making this inquiry as accessible as possible. His document management has been absolutely exemplary, and I think he's allowed everyone's participation to be more effective as a consequence. Equally, in the early weeks, he supported all the witnesses in managing all the documents, again, very efficiently, and allowed that evidence to proceed without the usual trouble of document management. And equally, Jim Sorrell stepped into the breach in the last week to manage that, and it does make a big difference to the witnesses. And certainly, whilst Keith's not here, no doubt those instructing Mr Steele will make him aware of my comments and our gratitude for all that he's done in making this inquiry effective and efficient.
And we would echo that. His efforts made things much easier for us and for our admin staff. So that was a very valuable piece of work. Anything from anyone else? Okay. And
I'm sorry.
Mr Thompson.
I understood that we might be considering the closing dates for closing submissions.
I will be doing that.
All right. In that case, before we come to that, I'd like to express thanks to you, sirs, on behalf of the Council and others for the care, courtesy and consideration with which you've conducted this inquiry, which has made it easier for all concerned, and it has been much appreciated. I'd also like to thank CMS for the loan of their barrow on 1 or 2 occasions, which has been equally helpful. Thanks.
Thank you. Before we do that, just on a positive note, I'd also like to thank CMS for their online resource, which was so useful over the summer, because whilst, shall we say, it's an exemplary access for online documentation, and it's made life much easier for those of us not supported by large law firms. And thank you, sirs, for dealing with all the excitements of the last 5 weeks with tact.
Yes, thanks for that. Although Mr Owen seems to have drawn the short straw on most days, by my reckoning. Okay. Yes, thanks all for your... just coming back to what Mr Steele said about the public inquiry, we do feel that, and we were asked, I recall, at the pre-examination meeting to think about hearing sessions rather than inquiry sessions. I think we would have struggled, to be honest. And I wouldn't want this to be used against me in future, but the inquiry sessions have been useful given the volume of evidence in this case. Closing submissions, we had set out in the procedure notice the suggested dates for closing submissions, and those dates are that the other parties, including HES, would submit by the 12th of November, the City Council by the 26th, and the appellants by the 10th of December. Does anyone have any comment on those dates?
Yes, sirs, I do. On behalf of HES, and I think echoed by the other parties who are currently intended to have their submissions in by the 12th, I think we would be asking for a further period that might take us up to Friday the 23rd of November. particularly on the part of HES, for various reasons peculiar to this inquiry, a bulk of the evidence has been addressed through cross-examination of Mr Mackay, and there will be quite a number of issues to address in the submissions by HES. And taking into account that and the importance of the issue, etc., we would respectfully request a little bit longer. So the 23rd is the date that we were suggesting, which might knock on the dates for the other parties. And I'll leave others to address how much additional time they might need. What I think we were thinking was perhaps if we could have until the 23rd of November, the Council might have until Friday the 30th of November, with the appellants by Friday the 14th of December. But I'll leave other parties to make their own suggestions on that.
I think on that, I would say, given the volume of evidence, I think a request for slightly extended periods isn't unreasonable in principle. And I would also say that it's not going to delay our write-up. Just in case anyone is concerned about that, we'll be commencing in any case in advance of the closing statements. Any other comments on those suggested dates put forward by HES?
I would have no difficulty about the suggested follow-on dates.
So for the Council, that would be the 30th of November. And Mr Steele, the 14th of December.
Content with that, sir.
Perfect. Okay, so let's fix those dates. Just one more thing to say on the subject of closing submissions. The approach taken to closing submissions can vary quite rightly between advocates. We find closing submissions to be most helpful when they set out the various parties' cases as it stands at the end of the inquiry. So, differences in evidence, differences in precognitions and so on. It would be very useful to us. We can't enforce this, but given that we have to summarise a huge volume of evidence in our report, it would make our task much easier and quicker if somehow from the closing submissions we are able to pick up summaries of that party's case, in addition, obviously, to criticisms of the other party's case. So I make that comment. In terms of site inspections, we've obviously had some accompanied site inspections. Mr Ron and I intend to make further unaccompanied site inspections, primarily around various viewpoints and so on that we've been discussing over the last few weeks. It's possible too that we would want to gain access not to the buildings themselves but to the site, and we ask for guidance from the appellants and or the Council as to whether that can be facilitated or whether, if we're entering the site, we would need to be accompanied.
My understanding, sir, you would need advanced permission to get into the site and or the building. Yes, it can absolutely, I'm sure, be accommodated, but I suspect if you just turn up, that may not work terribly well.
We wouldn't have envisaged doing that, but who should we contact if we're intending or trying to arrange an unaccompanied visit to the site itself?
I think the easiest way is to contact us, sir, because we have the ability to organise and the legal ability to organise such visits. I think that would be, unless the Council have got a better idea, I think that is the correct procedure, given the legal position. And I suppose the other question is, do you envisage in any way any further accompanied site visit, or would that not be necessary?
Not at present, but clearly if that arose, we would let the parties know. Thanks for that. Okay, we have a hearing session at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, when we'll discuss conditions and legal agreements. Before that, we need to clear this room tonight, so all documents and so on needs to be removed. We still have the storage available that we've been using throughout the inquiry. And I suppose the last thing that we need to say is that in terms of a timescale for our reports, we are thinking around March to April given the volume of evidence and so on that we need to consider.
So in respect to the hearing session, I had thought that I wouldn't be attending, but in the light of the reference to the redacted documents and the way that evidence went with various questions by Mr. Steele suggesting that matters should be deferred to that, I might come as a sort of watching brief and take an interest in one of the small topics around room numbers. I don't want to make it any longer and more painful than it already is, but I think I should come.
Anyone else? Okay.
So just on the site inspections, one of the positions was Mr. Wright had a position that the portico cut would be visible from Regent Road. Now, obviously that's not my client's position, and we've produced drawings and everything to show that. All I'm saying that if that was still of a concern, having considered the various evidence, then that would have to be marked on the building for you to be able to see or not to see.
Sorry, what was that? There's something cut, did you say?
Mr. Wright claimed that you would be capable of seeing the cut to provide the entrance to the portico, underneath the portico. And obviously that's our position is that we don't accept that. If following site inspections you have doubts, then the only way that could be resolved is actually marking on the building where that would occur, and for then inspections to be carried out as a result. Now, I leave it to you to form that judgment based on the evidence, but if there is continued doubt about that, then I think that would have to be an organised site inspection for that particular matter.
Yeah, understand that. Yeah, I think we'll try without first. It should be okay, but thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And lastly, I suppose we would echo the goodwill all around the room. Everyone's been very helpful to us during the course of the inquiry, and it has certainly helped us to digest the material and the issues before us. So thanks very much, everyone, for your assistance in that, and have a good weekend.
Thanks, sir.